Hello, welcome to When the Smoke Clears. I am the recovery plug. What's happening, man? I hope you guys are doing great today. It's Thursday, so it's time for the segment here on the Recovery Plugs channel at When the Smoke Clears. So yeah, I'm excited to get into a discussion and to share with you guys some new things and of my spiritual journey and just reliving a few things that I have read before, and I just want to share it with you guys. So, but before we get started, what I want to do is, like I said the last time, what I want to do is start ringing in to get that feeling. You know what I mean? Get them energies right and sound, so we can have a good episode. You know what I mean? So you can learn something, so I can learn something, and so I can feed energies and get fed from energies. You know what I'm saying? Because when I'm doing these videos, not only as I'm going along doing them, I start feeling excited about stuff. You know what I mean? And I can tell that that's the energy of the essence of the teaching at work. So what I'm going to do is ring us in. So here we go. If you just indulge me in a little bit of silence here. Nam-myo renge kyo, Nam-myo renge kyo, Nam-myo renge kyo. Eternal Buddha Shakyamuni, please guide me and let this teaching, let this episode be of great wisdom and help to anyone out there. Thank you. Alrighty, so let's get started, man. Okay, yeah. So let me get my glasses on so that I can, so I'm able to read what I got down on my computer, and then I gotta share a few things out of the book that I'm gonna share with you guys. So what I wanted to share with you guys today is a chapter of this book that I read, and I'm on this journey. I'm on this Chogyam Trungpa binge. I've already. This is my third book of him in the last 3 weeks, and it just exciting stuff that this guy. I really like how Trungpa teaches and explains the teachings of the Buddhist practice, and breaks things down really right in sync with how I like to explain things on the videos here, is just giving you raw feed. You know what I mean? Nothing that is no sugarcoating of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Just how I read it, how I feel it, is how I'm going to explain it to you, and that's exactly how he does his teachings, and to me, I think that's just a really cool way to do it. And so yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get going with that. So the book I'm talking about is The Heart of the Buddha, which is this book right here, and a really cool book, man. And the chapter that really stood out to me was chapter 3, and the chapter 3 is the 4 foundations of mindfulness. And you know, Trungpa begins by reframing mindfulness as a return to our actual experience, not an escape from it. You know what I mean? That to me was really, it was really something that I really felt that. You know what I'm saying? Because mindfulness for a lot of us is just not really dealing with the inner you. It's more of just being mindful of what's out here. And so he emphasizes that mindfulness is not about becoming calm or spiritual. It's about becoming real. And that, I really like that. You know what I mean? And he invites us to drop the project of self-improvement instead cultivate direct contact with what's happening right now. In other words, dealing with the dukkha, the suffering, dealing with whatever it is that you're going through is head on. You know what I'm saying? And which is really cool to me. And, you know, for listeners in recovery or healing work, this is huge. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, mindfulness isn't about fixing yourself. It's about befriending yourself. It's about knowing you. It's about rediscovering you. You know what I'm saying? And which is really cool. And, you know, the first foundation of mindfulness, or the first foundation is the mindfulness of body. And Trungpa starts with the body because it's the most honest thing we have, is what he says. He says the body doesn't lie, it doesn't strategize, and it doesn't perform. He encourages us to feel the body as earth element, solid, grounded, unpretentious. And in practice, this means feeling feeling your breath without manipulating it. It's like noticing your posture, sensing weight, temperature, and movement. It's really paying attention. You know what I mean? And for people that are like navigating through trauma and addiction, this foundation is like a lifeline because it connects us, it reconnects us to the place where healing actually happens. You know what I'm saying? The body, not the story. You know what I mean? For a lot of us, we, including myself, it was always, you know, I'm here because of this, or I can't do that because of this, or, you know, it was always the story revolving around the actual suffering. You know what I mean? And that's what I like about this first foundation of mindfulness. And, you know, I'm going to just read this. Let me switch these glasses out. You know, here it says in the first part of this, right off the bat, you know, it's a really cool thing that he's got written down here. And, excuse me. Okay. And now he says that as far as meditation practice is concerned, in meditation we work on this thing rather than on trying to sort out the problem from the outside. We work on the projector rather than the projection. We turn inward instead of trying to sort out external problems of A, B, or C. We work on the creator of duality rather than the creation. That is beginning at the beginning. And you know what? That right there, to me, beginning at the beginning is really, to me, it's like stating in order to fix something, in order to understand something, no matter what it is, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's, you know, baking a cake or dealing with emotions, whatever the case is. You have to, if you want a good result, you got to start at the beginning. You have to start at the beginning to understand what it is that you're dealing with, what it is that got you where you are. You know what I'm saying? And it's just, to me, that's a very really concrete, I guess, way to begin to understand something of what these four mindfulness foundations are. And you know, it also states that For the follower of the Buddha Dharma, the teaching of Buddhism, there is a need for great emphasis on the practice of meditation. One must see the straightforward logic that mind is the cause of confusion, and that by transcending confusion, one attains enlightened state. This can only take place through the practice of meditation. The Buddha himself experienced this by working on his own mind, and what he learned has been handed down to us. That right there is really, really textbook 12-step recovery work right there. You know what I'm saying? Because he's telling you that I've already done the work. I've already done the work to get to this enlightened state. And you can also get to that state in this world that we live in. And how do you do it? By practicing. By practicing the Dharma, by practicing the teachings that he has set forth in all these sutras. You know what I'm saying? And it's the commitment. You know what I'm saying? It's the commitment that is not an easy thing to do. You know what I mean? In a world that we live in this world that is full of our clinginess. You know what I mean? We it is full of the want, the need to want. And the Buddha found out that if you cling to nothing, if you want nothing, then there's no suffering in that. You know what I'm saying? And it's kind of a hard thing to understand if you don't start at the beginning. And that's what I like about this, is that he's telling you, in order to know, you have to start at the beginning. You can't do it, halfway in or skip all these other parts. You know what I'm saying? It's like the 3 steps or the 3 Buddhist traditions, the Hinayana, Mahayana, Vajrayana. You can't start to understand these things unless you start at the beginning. You know what I mean? It's very hard concept. A very and not saying that it can't be done, but there's a lot of obstacles that will need to be that and things that you got to go through in order to attain that level, right? So I believe that starting at the beginning is the best way, and that's what the Buddha's saying. You know what I'm saying? I've already got this stuff on. I've already done it. I've set out this journey for you. I've set out this foundation for you. All you got to do is commit. And it's a really cool thing. So I'm going to go on here and talk about the second foundation that Trungpa talks about. And he talks about mindfulness of feelings. Okay? Mindfulness of feelings. And on the mindfulness of feelings, Trungpa uses feelings in the classical Buddhist sense, right? As pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Not emotions, just the raw tone of experience. He teaches that when we notice these tones without chasing them or resisting them, we begin to see the mechanics of craving and avoidance. You know what I mean? We learn to sit with discomfort. We learn not to cling to pleasure. We learn to recognize neutrality without drifting into numbness. Mindfulness of feelings is the training ground for emotional sobriety. And I believe in that context, emotions is a really big part of living everyday life, and then especially living a life with the X, Y, and Z's of addiction, trauma, depression, anxiety, stress, all of that stuff. Uh, Emotions is a big part of that. It's a big part of the manipulative or the delusional way to make you think, oh, this, that, or the other, instead of coming back to what he says here at the very beginning, that raw tone of just the experience alone. You know what I'm saying? And it's really cool stuff, man. And let me get into this book here real quick. And Trungpa goes on to talk about mindfulness of body, right? Mindfulness of body, the first foundation of mindfulness is connected with the need for a sense of being, a sense of groundedness. And I really like that because in every spiritual aspect of any spiritual practice, the first thing they teach that is emphasized is being grounded. Being grounded, and I love the way he uses the elements, being grounded to Mother Earth, because it means being grounded to the beginning, starting at the very beginning of you. You know what I'm saying? So it's like this whole circle. No matter what's happening, ultimately is bringing you back to that point. You know what I'm saying? Without getting to that beginning, you're going to be in this whirlwind of different emotional roller coasters. And you're not going to be able to move past adversities. You're not going to be able to move to the next level of spirituality if you don't know what's at the beginning. And, let me read something else that I saw that was really cool. He states that he says the basic starting point for this is solidness, groundedness. When you sit, you actually sit. Even your floating thoughts begin to sit on their own bottoms. There are no particular problems. You have a sense of solidness and groundedness, and at the same time, a sense of being. That's that's what you're getting. That's how you start feeling when you begin at the beginning, because there's nothing else after that. You know what I mean? There's nothing else after that. So it is just it's a beautiful way of looking at the teaching of the mindfulness of these foundations. You know what I mean? And it's he goes on to say that without this particular foundation of mindfulness, the rest of your meditation practice could be very airy-fairy, vacillating back and forth, trying this and trying that. You could be constantly tiptoeing on the surface of the universe, not actually getting a foothold anywhere. You become an eternal hitchhiker. So with this first technique, you develop some basic solidness in mindfulness of body. There is a sense of finding some home ground. And for a lot of us, that's what we need. We need something that we can call home. Because without a projection point, without something that you can, and this is in the early stages, right? Because ultimately what you're trying to do is get to where you don't have to have a projection point. But in the early stages of finding that groundedness, you need it. You know what I mean? You have to have that grounding point, and that's the home that he's talking about. That's you getting into this meditative state to understand your thoughts and understand the dukkha, understand the emotional roller coaster. You know what I mean? Now, he goes on to talk about a third foundation of mindfulness, And here, Trungpa gets more subtle. You know what I mean? And mindfulness of mind means noticing. You know, in the mind, is the mind dull or sharp, or, you know, is it spacious or tight? Is it restless or settled? You know, not judging it, not trying to change it, just seeing it for what it is. You know what I mean? Just seeing the rawness of it. You know, Trungpa emphasizes that this is where we begin to understand egolessness. You know, the mind is not a solid thing, but a shifting display. You know, for listeners, this is a powerful moment. You know, you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness that sees them. I really like that, because when I read that, I was like, oh my God, this is exactly how I meditate now. You know what I'm saying? I'm in my meditation journey now is way more. I'm not saying that it's like this whole advanced thing, no, but it's way more. I could see the steps of when I first started the foundation. Now I can see myself literally. It's like this out of body experience of meditation, that I can see myself meditating, and I can see myself seeing myself meditate, and understanding that whole concept that, wow, ultimately I'm just here. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to deal with this with this problem. You know what I mean? And that's the egolessness that it's talking about. You know, because when you're dealing with that problem that you have in the meditation and these things that come and go in your mind, you're clinging to it, right? And it starts giving you the discomfort and this and that in your mental thought process, and in your relaxed state or whatever. And you'll start noticing that. You know what I mean? And now I notice that, okay, I see that you're there, but and I like to use a lot of the analogies of addiction and stuff like that, because of the things that I've gone through in my own life. And I could say that, okay, I understand that I'm going through this right now, but I don't have to look at it that way now. I'm glad that you're there, because you remind me of what not to do. I'm grateful that I was suffering with you at one point. I'm grateful for that suffering, because now I can see a different path. Staying on this middle path, now I see the broad spectrum of all of the delusions, all of the suffering. I can see it floating around. And it's okay. It's okay that you're there, because you're reminding me of what not to do. And you're reminding me of what to do. You know what I mean? It's really cool stuff. And I'm going to go on to this other part of it. And the fourth foundation is the mindfulness of Dharma, which is the mind objects. And this is the most expensive foundation. Trungpa describes it as observing thoughts, emotions, patterns, mental events, the teachings themselves. You know, we begin to see how experience arises and dissolves. We see the play of impermanence, suffering, and non-self, not as a philosophy, but as a lived truth. A lived truth. And I see that in myself all the time. You know what I'm saying? And this foundation is where mindfulness becomes wisdom. And that's so true, because if you're not involving yourself in this suffering, if you're not indulging in this suffering, then you don't get the wisdom of how to deal with the suffering. You know what I mean? It's so easy to say, hey, you know what? It's all fine and dandy, but I'd rather go smoke this, or I'd rather go drink that. You know what I'm saying? I'd rather go buy this for myself, or I'd rather go sleep with this person, because I don't want to deal with none of that. It's easier to do that. Way easier. And the thing is that that's where the practice of the Dharma and the mindfulness, that it's being mindful and aware of those things, that you have to understand that this mindfulness journey, this mindfulness foundation is really a dance of you dealing with the suffering, dealing with the addiction, dealing with the loneliness, dealing with the trauma. And guess what? You have to dance that dance. You have to dance that dance, because if not, if you're just a spectator watching the dance, then guess what? You get engulfed in that delusion. And you'll never know, you'll never experience the bliss, the excitement of the dance, because even though it's suffering, you're not going to get knowledge and wisdom to pass on to somebody else, and to understand the bodhisattva path, to understand the truth, which is the Dharma, without dancing the dance of suffering. You know what I'm saying? Which is really cool. And you know what makes Trungpa's teaching in this chapter so potent is his insistency on honesty. You know, he warns us against the spiritual bypassing, the self-improvement fantasies, and using meditation to escape life. Because a lot of people think that, if we just meditate, and don't get me wrong, meditation can be a very dangerous thing, because people look for it as an out. If I just meditate, I'm not going to be suffering. No, you have to look beyond that. Meditation means that you have to deal with the suffering. That's the dance. You know what I'm saying? And it's the dance that's going on in here. You know, it's a dance that's going on mentally and in your soul. You know what I mean? So, as you move through your day, I guess today, or let me see if I got one more thing just to throw out to you real quick. You know, he did put down that, so mindfulness here does not mean pushing oneself towards something or hanging on to something. It means allowing oneself to be there in every moment of what is happening in one's living process, and then letting go. That's exactly what I'm talking about. He's talking about engulfing yourself in this raw feed of suffering and figuring out what it is that you have to do to just let that go. You know what I'm saying? And the only way to do that is to meditate and to practice. The consistency of indulging yourself in the Dharma, the truth of what works. You know what I'm saying? It's a proven method. A proven method that somebody proved 2,600 years ago. You know what I'm saying? And it fits perfect with your life today. Just like in a 12-step program, you're doing something that somebody already done. It's giving you good results. And so just in closing out here, you know, so as you move through your day today, with your week, you know, feel your body as it is. Notice the tone of each moment. Watch the mind without judgment. Observe the patterns that rise and fall. This is the heart of Trungpa's message. You know what I'm saying? Mindfulness is the path, because mindfulness is life itself. So thank you for paying attention to my podcast today. Thank you for indulging me in a few minutes of your life to talk about something that is helpful. You know what I'm saying? I really enjoy explaining things and giving my feed on how I feel about certain things and the excitement that it brings to me, because when I talk about it, I get more things that pop up into my head of understanding the way to live this way, and the mindfulness of seeing yourself expand, seeing yourself evolve, seeing yourself grow. To me, that's exciting, man, because 5 years ago, I would have never thought I would, this would never have been in the picture of my mind. You know what I mean? But thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. I hope my energies are touching your energies. I hope we were able to communicate with somebody out there. I really do, man. And thank you for listening. So again, I'm going to ring this out. Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. If you would please hit that subscribe button, share the channel. Just know that when you do hit that subscribe button, you'll be helping out another veteran, another homeless person, another person dealing with PTSDs, childhood traumatic experiences, drug addiction, alcoholism, suicidal thoughts, depression, anxiety, stress, all of those types of things, my friend, because you know what? At one point in my life, I dealt with all of those things, man. And you know what? I know a way out. And my way out could be your way out. So until the next time when the smoke clears, I am the Recovery Plug.